Now, financial matters can prove confusing, but if you used to think, or perhaps you still think, that stamp duty is money to pay for stamps, you wouldn't be alone. Here to explain why, Richard McCourt and Dominic Wood, better known as the children's TV duo Dick and Dom, from The Bungalow, so quite apt to talk about houses, housing, how to buy, what to do. Now, this is something that policymakers have struggled with for years, how to solve the housing crisis, and you guys think that it's by teaching children about what goes into buying a house that could be the key.
Well, we don't think it's going to solve the housing crisis, you know. Carney and that lot are going to do whatever they want with the Bank of England base rate, that's going to do whatever. But we think that there's so much that gets taught in school that isn't really beneficial to your life. Like how often have you used the Pythagorean theory or algebra
in your life? I can't even remember what it is. It was
exactly. But we feel that is really important to teach our children. However, you know, because we've seen some research from Halifax has shown that I think late teens and early teens, early 20s don't know enough about what's involved in buying a home. We feel that it actually should be almost in the syllabus, teaching you what's involved, so that it's not a massive surprise when you get to it.
Or, as a parent, you could sit down with your kid and kind of explain to them what a mortgage is, what stamp duty is. Yes, stamp duty isn't for paying for stamps, because actually one of the stats was really interesting. 1 in 10 people aged 18 to 21 think that what you said, stamp duty, is money for buying stamps. I mean, that's bizarre.
And what's interesting is you mentioned about talking about stamp duty, but it's personal finance, it's savings, it's pensions that would be very useful in a maths lesson. I know that it would have come in very useful when we were at school, but it's still not being taught as part of the curriculum.
No, it's not, and you know, things are changing in terms of the education system and what we're teaching our children, and we really feel quite strongly that this kind of stuff, like life lessons, are more beneficial than a lot of the things kids are being taught at the moment. You know, you don't have to sit down and teach an 11-year-old about what a variable tracker is. You know, that's a bit far. However, what you could teach them is the expectations that you can't just borrow as much as you want to buy a house, or that mum and dad won't pay off your mortgage.
Yeah, that was interesting. A fifth of 11 to 14-year-olds think you can borrow as much as you want from a bank, if only.
But the thing is, they would think that. You know, 11 to 14-year-old, they probably haven't even thought about these things. We didn't think about it till we first bought
or a deposit. A massive percentage of young people in that age group think that a deposit is £5,000 to £10,000, when actually the average UK deposit is £32,500.
That's quite a bit of saving. A third of 11 to 14-year-olds think that their parents will give them money to buy a property. The bank of mum and dad, it seems, is instilled in them quite early.
Even more alarming, people think that they can get their mortgage paid off by inheritance. And you're like,
oh, that's not going to happen for my kids, I can tell you that for sure.
Exactly. But in terms of... actually, I've just spotted this one. More than a third said all you have to do to buy a house is look on the internet. I mean, the way technology is going, that might not be too far away.
Yeah, well, you know, they might see their mum and dad sat on their phone on Rightmove looking at dream houses if they move out to the countryside.
Oh, we've all done that. We've all whiled away a couple of hours on those websites looking for our dream house.
But, you know, there's ways that parents can help out with their kids so they understand more. Halifax School website, halifaxjargonbusters.co.uk, and on that they can see really, really simple, boiled-down tips on what they can talk to their kids about.
So what do you think the basics should be, then, in talking to children about house buying and essentially being a grown-up? I mean, a lot of these children aren't going to be in a position to buy houses until they're well into their 30s. I mean, some people are never going to be able to afford to buy their own home. That's a sad fact of the matter.
I think one of the early facts should be how much houses are, you know, because a lot of young people think in London you can get a house for between 50 and 200 grand, when the actual average price of London is about 420,000.
That's fairy tale territory.
So I think if you tell them that a house costs this much, then go from there, you know, how much a deposit is, etc., etc.
OK, so just top tip for any parents watching in terms of if they think, actually, that's quite a good idea to start teaching my child about personal finance and mortgages. How do you make it fun? Because that's what you're in the job of doing, making things fun for kids.
I saw Dick and Dom on Sky Sunrise talking about mortgages. Do you remember them on The Bungalow when you were a kid?
Yeah. It feels very weird, because this research by Halifax is all targeted towards what we call the bungalow generation. The kids who grew up, we used to teach them about bogies and the bungalow, and now we're teaching them about mortgages. How times have changed.
We've all got to grow up sometime, boys. All got to grow up sometimes. Dick and Dom,
Can we have
Richard
that big
and
screen there, by the way? That's very nice, isn't it? That's the biggest LED screen.
You know what? So many
I've seen.
people ask us about that. We've watched many a football match and cricket match on that
very
during the break. I have to add here on Sky News. Boys, thank you very much for coming in to see us. Thank you.